behind. Ladies and gentlemen, get ready. It's Wolfman Jack.
Sometimes I get to thinking there's just not enough love and romance left in our lives today. And that's why I like to reminisce and to relive that first feeling of love and do it all over again.
Did you boogie with your baby in the back row of the movie show?
The Wolfman's back all the way on KCAA at midnight, Friday and Saturday nights, coming in March. Don't miss the Wolfman on 1050 AM and 106.5 FM.
KCAA.
Call the dogs and put out the fire. This is Baxter Black with a little peek at wolf recipes. What holds the loaded 30,000-pound trailer to the heavy-duty truck? What holds the 38-foot RV trailer to the dually? What holds the 2-horse trailer with your daughter's favorite pony to the half-ton pickup? Well, the odds are it's a B&W trailer hitch, probably a turnover bowl, American-made, employee-owned, customer-tuned, and proud of their part in America's greatness. B&W, holding things together down the road. Famous Friends of the Wolf Cookbook is a new cookbook authored by 2 ladies in Idaho. Oh, great, I thought. Talk about bad press. A couple ranchers' wives are offering recipes on how to cook wolf meat. Wolf burgers, pickled wolf's feet, wolf on the half shell. But I was wrong. Proceeds from this book are to be directed to funding wolf protection. Famous celebrities are contributing recipes like grilled Utah trout on ranch greens, with yogurt lemon dressing by Robert Redford, Utah condo magnate. But after I thought about it, this book could just have easily been titled Famous Celebrity Wolves Cookbook, which might include recipes like Woodchopper's Son, grilled on pages of Dr. Zhivago with oboe dressing by Famous Wolves of Peter and the Wolf. Or raw spare ribs served with garnish of straw sticks and river gravel by Famous Wolf of the 3 Little Pigs. Or, of course, fricasseed grandma, presented on a red cape platter and basted with geritol by Famous Wolf of Little Red Riding Hood. Or how about this, a typical blue-collar wolf meal of whining skinny juvenile served on a bun with sauerkraut by Famous Wolf of The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Or how about a tasty domesticated fowl platter accompanied by bones arranged to spell The Sky is Falling by Famous Wolf of Chicken Little notoriety. Parasite Surprise, boiled wolf nematodes served with tomato sauce, garlic bread, and sausage made from Italians by Whir Wolf. How about this? Gristle patties in the shape of bankers and tax collectors, best smothered by Famous Wolf at the Door. And the Blue Plate Special. Bake 1 cavalry mule in a car fire for 12 hours. Break the hide off in little pieces and serve with guacamole dip by Famous Wolf of Dances with Wolves. And finally, the Kodiak Happy Meal, a succulent takeout featuring lame, aged, or very young elk, buffalo or deer nuggets, a roll of 35mm film, and a plastic ranger toy that says, "The restrooms are behind the lodge," by reintroduced Yellowstone wolf. This is Baxter Black, brought to you by B&W Turnover Bowl.
KCAA.
Welcome to Foster to Foster, and now here's your host, Dr. Anissa McNeil.
Good evening, listeners, and welcome to Foster Radio Show. Today we have a very interesting question by one of the foster youth in our community. One of the foster kids asked me, Dr. McNeil, why do we have more trouble in school than anybody else? And so that's the question that we're going to answer here tonight on Foster to Foster Radio Show. And the question I simply want to answer is, why do foster kids have more trouble in school than other kids? And that's not to say that foster children have more trouble in school, but they have some unique barriers. And that's what we're going to talk about this evening, are the unique barriers that foster children place as they attend K through 12 schools and try to obtain their education. So we want to get our arms around how many foster children are we talking about, Dr. McNeil? I want to give you a few stats from Kids Data. It tells us that in Los Angeles County, there are 20,651 foster children. In Orange County, there are 2,389 foster children. In Riverside, there are 4,721 foster children. And in San Bernardino County, there are 4,869 foster children. In the entire state of California, we have approximately 65,000 foster children in the state of California. That's a lot of children to think of what unique challenges they face as they try to obtain an education in K through 12 system. So, what are some of the unique challenges that they face? I want to give you some data that's provided by that is provided by Martha Matthews of the Public Counsel Children's Rights Project. And she writes that foster children have unique educational needs. She writes that education outcomes for foster youth lag behind those for other children, even when compared to low-income children and EL children. She also writes that foster youth face unique educational challenges. They have frequent school changes, gaps in education. They lack of consistent adult support for their education, and the impact of trauma. Those are some of the unique education barriers for foster youth. And so as we look at this, we can think there are 64,000 foster youth in the state of California. They have some very unique educational needs and challenges that exist. So what happens to the foster youth or the foster child as they begin to look at how do I become educated as a foster child? And I wanted to begin this segment by just simply saying to the young person, as well as all of our listeners, the story that I shared with the foster child that asked me this question for today's show. It is very challenging to focus on school and to go to school and to be away from your family. And I simply shared with her my own story of being a very young child in elementary school and being taken away from my mother, having had a traumatic experience of being homeless with my mother, and then having to go to a different school and not know the teachers, not know any of the children there, not know how I fit in. I already felt a little bit awkward because I wasn't at home with my family. We didn't have all the normal things that we had to go to school. And so I felt a little out of place. And that was challenging to manage all of those feelings as a 7-8-year-old child, and also attempt to go to school and focus on what everyone else was focused on, reading, writing, having friends, or who we're going to play with at recess. It was very challenging. And I came through the foster care system many years ago, but those are some of the needs that foster children have as they are removed from their families and placed in school. They have unique challenges because they are not with their families of origin for no reason or for no fault of their own. And so tonight here on Foster to Foster Radio Show, we're going to focus on some of the unique challenges that foster youth face as they try to obtain their K through 12 education. If you'd like to join me in this conversation, please give our station a call here at 888-909-1050 or call us here locally at 909-888-5222. And again, we're talking about some of the unique barriers to education for foster children. And we were able to hear from the Public Counsel Children's Rights Project some of what those unique challenges are. And they write that foster youth lag behind other students, even when compared to low income, and EL students. And what we know to be true, according from the California Department of Education, is that 50% of foster youth graduate from high school. Of the 64,000 foster youth here in the state of California, only 32,000 of those foster youth will graduate from high school. That is daunting. That is a statistic that if it was any other high school student population, we wouldn't stand for it. We wouldn't stand for 1 out of every 2 high school students being able to graduate from high school. So this issue that we're talking about tonight, what are the unique barriers that face foster youth, is very important, so that we as a community, we as a city, we as the adults that surround foster youth can really wrap our arms around what are some of the unique challenges that they face and really help them along their path, help them along their way. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you needed someone's help, or where you didn't know information and maybe someone else knew the information and they could guide you along the way. I know that when I was a very young child, I needed the adults around me to help guide me through my education. I needed the adults around me to really hone in and help me, one, try to heal my emotions and the trauma that I faced from being with my mother and then subsequently taken away from my mother. But I also needed for them to help me with my education. And in that help, also recognize that because I had that trauma didn't make me intellectually inferior. I went on as a foster youth to obtain a high school diploma and went on to obtain many college degrees. So oftentimes when we sometimes we may see a foster youth that's struggling with the trauma that comes with being taken away from their parent, and we may say, oh, this child can't focus, or this child can't read adequately. So then they're given a label or maybe even taken down another path, when what they really are suffering from is a broken heart. And that, ladies and gentlemen, takes a long time to heal. Some of us in our own communities, we have experienced the death or the loss of a parent. And even as an adult, you may, during that time of year, or when you think of the loss of your parent, you too may struggle emotionally, and yet you are an adult. And so if you can even have empathy for that, even if you have experienced losing a parent or losing someone else in your life that you loved, can you imagine what these young children are going through as they lose their parent? My name is Dr. Anissa McNeil, and you're listening to Foster to Foster Radio Show. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Education Works consulting firm provides foster youth education services and a scholarship program titled the Unstoppable Awards. This year, starting December 1st, we are launching a crowd fundraising opportunity for you. If you have a heart to give to foster youth and you want to see them obtain an education, or you want to support an unstoppable angel that will fly to college with the foster youth and buy everything they need to move into college, join our crowd fundraiser at www.edworks4u.org, or simply call our office at 213-634-0044. Join us at Education Works Consulting Firm. Help us improve the education and the lives of foster youth. The Hair Garden, where we grow hair from the roots, is a full-service hair salon and supplies located at 40119 Marietta Hot Springs Road, number 103C, Marietta, California. We are open on Mondays through Saturdays from 9 to 6 p.m. Come in and purchase your hair supplies, or receive a full hair service, or let us restore your hair. We have weekly specials. Call the Hair Garden at 951-698-8444 or visit our website at www.hairgardenmarietta.com. That's www.hairgardenmarietta.com. We look forward to seeing you. Happy holidays. Education Works consulting firm is celebrating its 10-year anniversary. And in celebration, the Healing Touch Massage Therapy Center is offering each listener a 15% discount by simply mentioning Foster to Foster Radio Show. Healing Touch specializes in sports massage, deep tissue massage, prenatal massage, reflexology, trigger point therapy, acupuncture, and myofascial release. The Healing Touch is located at 1426 Ramona Avenue, Suite E8 in Chino, California. Give them a call at 909-242-1371. And don't forget to mention Foster to Foster Radio Show for your discount. Education Works consulting firm provides foster youth education services. We work to make sure that every foster youth has a chance by providing a way through education. Please visit us at edworks4u.org or call our offices at 213-634-0044. Education works for all of us. Let's head back to Foster with your host, Dr. Anissa McNeil. Welcome back to Foster Radio Show. We're discussing some of the unique challenges that face foster youth as they attend a K-12 education system. And just to bring you up to speed on what are the unique challenges that foster youth face in the education system, they have the lowest, they lag behind the education outcomes when they are compared to low-income and EL students, meaning that only 50% of foster youth actually graduate from high school. Some of their other unique educational challenges are that they have frequent school changes, gaps in attendance, lack of consistent adult support for education, and an impact of trauma. So today, as we dive into this topic of the unique educational needs and challenges for foster youth, we want to start with the discussion on grief. And one of the articles that's written in ACES Connection Network, Ms. Shadona Cheflo wrote a wonderful article titled How Grief Goes Unnoticed in Foster Children and the Underlying Trauma that it causes. And I want to take a moment to just dive into this article and share a bit with our listeners. If a small girl is pulled from her mother's home only to be placed in the safety of strangers, and she attends school later that week only to throw something at another student or even the teacher, is she grieving or a troublemaker? Children are often unable and fail to recognize the underlying causes of their own behaviors, unable to make the leap that their grief and sorrow may be connected. And she writes that how can we, for some reason, put our arms around that children in the foster care system lose their parents? This is exactly their case. They are pulled from their parents and placed in a presumably safer environment. Some are reunited, only to be pulled again from their parents. Others will never see their parents again. How are they allowed to grieve? She continues to write that children are often unable and fail to recognize the underlying causes of their own behaviors, unable to make the leap that their grief and sorrow may be connected. Professionals often dismiss these problems as impulsive behaviors or a symptom of a larger psychological issue. Some foster children are not so social. They don't talk much to other children and have a difficult time understanding their own feelings and actions. These children have suffered a tremendous loss, a deep sadness and grief that often goes unrecognized and often leads to deeper traumas. When we learn to recognize that a child may be grieving, it may be easier to throw our arms around them and tell them everything is going to be okay instead of issuing a punishment. And this is the article that Ms. Shadona Cheflo published in ACES Connection Network. She brings up a very good issue for us, listener, and that is, how are foster children allowed to grieve? If you are a foster child and you're taken away from your parents and you're placed in a new group home or in a presumably safer environment and you're placed in a new school, what space do they have to grieve? When are some of their behaviors known and thought of as grief and sorrow versus just bad behavior? And we previously on Foster to Foster, we talked about the disproportion of foster youth that are placed on psychotropic medications because of impulse control, ADHD, ADD, all of those different diagnoses that they're given. But have we taken sufficient time to look at the grief process of children? Have we taken sufficient time to look at what does it take for a young child to grieve the loss of their mother and manage all of these new environments and new people? How many of us had to manage a new family, a new school, new teachers, new peers, and the loss of our mom or dad? Would you be overwhelmed? Would you need a moment to grieve? And so Ms. Cheflo writes a very poignant article for us to share and to think about as we look at what could be some of the unique barriers in the education system for a foster child. This is a unique barrier. So many other children are not faced with that same barrier that foster child is. Many other children in your normal K through 12 classroom, in your first grade, second grade, third grade class, many of those children are not foster children. They are not faced with the grieving process of losing a parent or the trauma that they faced in the care of their parent, only to then be removed from their parent. Also, that child is not also dealing with the rules of a new home, learning a new home, learning new people. How do you learn to live with people who are not your family? Do they have the same regard for you that your family did? Is there time allowed for you to be a kid? Are there things that you are able to do that maybe you are just roaming around the world as a kid? And not everything is a program of what you should do because the home operates on a program. Are you allowed to cry sometimes when you feel sad that you want your mom? Are you able to be angry sometimes that you're not with your mom or with your dad? Are you able to have a combination of all these feelings and more without someone putting a label on you? Can someone just say, this young child is grieving? And that is my biggest question as we look at some of the unique barriers. Is there sufficient training for foster parents to deal with grief? How many foster parents are skilled and trained with dealing with grief? How many foster parents are skilled and trained with letting a child grieve out loud? How many foster parents are skilled and trained at recognizing the difference between the grief process and a mental disorder? How many school counselors really know the impact of trauma and really sufficiently handle that trauma when the child is on school campus? How many times does the group home and the school counselor get to work together to help the child be able to grieve and hopefully go through the grieving process? How many times is that child given a label or maybe placed in special education or maybe given psychotropic drugs and not just allowed to grieve? I'll share with you a story of my own personal experience. When I was in second grade, Mrs. Anderson class, I was a terror. I was mad at the entire world. I couldn't figure out why I was the only little girl that didn't have a mom. That why didn't I live with my mom? Why is my mom taken away from me? And when will she come back? And I was angry. And so in second grade, I got in a lot of fights. I got in fights in school, at home. I was angry. But now being a grown adult, I also know in addition to that anger, my heart was broken. I was lonely for my mother. I was the oldest child of my mother. I knew the loving mother that she was. I knew her comfort. I knew the joy of having my mother. And I was lonely for her. I wanted her to come back and come and get me. And how I just wonder how much space is allowed for a child to grieve in that way. How much space do we allow in the education system or in a group home or in other placements that allow for a child to grieve in that way? How many placements, how many foster parents, how many guardians, how many group home administrators are trained with dealing with grief? My grandmother, who became my legal guardian, she was not trained in dealing with grief. She provided us the best that she knew how. She would simply say, "It's going to be okay, baby. We're going to work through this, but you got to get over it. You got to get over it." And I can just remember hearing those words and the pain that came from, "You got to get over it." How many people get over losing their mother? At the young age of 6 or 7, how many people just simply get over it? Like falling down on a bike. You get over falling down and you get back up and you get on the bicycle and you keep going. But how many children can get over losing a parent? And so at no fault to my grandmother, God bless her soul, she went to be with the Lord a couple of years ago. But no fault to my grandmother, but she just didn't have the training. She didn't have the skills. She didn't have the tools. So she did for my brother and I the very best that she knew how. And so then I had to ask myself, as the young person asked me, why do we have trouble in school? I believe that grief, the grieving process, the loss of a parent is one of the reasons why foster youth have a unique barrier, a unique challenge when it comes to the education system. And so I pose these questions to you, listener, to say, what space do we have available? How can we help these children overcome this unique barrier and go on to do well in school? My name is Dr. Anissa McNeil, and you're listening to Foster to Foster Radio Show. I do the work, and I tell the stories of foster youth. Be sure to join us back. Education Works consulting firm is celebrating its 10-year anniversary. And in celebration, the Healing Touch Massage Therapy Center is offering each listener a 15% discount by simply mentioning Foster to Foster Radio Show. Healing Touch specializes in sports massage, deep tissue massage, prenatal massage, reflexology, trigger point therapy, acupuncture, and myofascial release. The Healing Touch is located at 1426 Ramona Avenue, Suite E8 in Chino, California. Give them a call at 909-242-1371. And don't forget to mention Foster to Foster Radio Show for your discount. The Hair Garden, where we grow hair from the roots, is a full-service hair salon and supplies located at 40119 Marietta Hot Springs Road, number 103C, Marietta, California. We are open on Mondays through Saturdays from 9 to 6 p.m. Come in and purchase your hair supplies or receive a full hair service, or let us restore your hair. We have weekly specials. Call the Hair Garden at 698-8444 or visit our website at www.hairgardenmarietta.com. That's www.hairgardenmarietta.com. We look forward to seeing you. Happy holidays. Education Works Consulting Firm provides foster youth education services. We work to make sure that every foster youth has a chance by providing a way through education. Please visit us at edworks4u.org or call our offices at 213-634-0044. Education works for all of us. Jumping into Foster to Foster with your host, Dr. Anissa McNeil. We're back to Foster to Foster radio show. I'm Dr. Anissa McNeil. Thanks for joining us tonight, listener. So we talked about the unique challenge that foster youth face and the impact of trauma. We want to go on and talk about some of the other unique challenges that a foster youth may face and how here in the state of California, we have legislation to help with some of these unique challenges. So here in this segment of our show, we want to talk about the frequent school changes, gaps in attendance, those two specific unique problems to foster youth as they try to receive an education can really be two huge barriers if we don't help them overcome that. So I want to take a moment and I want to review the state law here in California. It is titled AB 379. And it provides foster youth with the right to immediate enrollment in school, to remain in the school of origin, to be enrolled in their local comprehensive school, to receive partial credits, to graduate with the state minimum requirements following school transfer after the second year of high school, and to have access to the same academic resources, services, and extracurricular activities that are available to all students. And so I want to talk about the significance of AB 379 for a foster youth. Previously, before this law, if a foster youth moved from group home to group home to group home, every time they moved, they would have to enroll in a different school. Sometimes that enrollment may take a couple of days. So then they're losing time in education and it's difficult to enroll. But this new law says that they have the right for immediate enrollment. So if you're a foster child and you can hear the sound of my voice, or you're an adult and you are supervising or caring for a foster child, when they get to your home, they have the legal right to be immediately enrolled in school. Go to their local school and enroll them in school. They also have the right to remain in their school of origin. And this is huge. So before AB 379, if you were a foster youth and you moved from City A to City B, and here in the state of California, especially Southern California, you can drive for 10 minutes and maybe in a completely different city. If that happened to you, you would have to go to another school. If you left that group home and went to another group home, you'd have to go to that school. But this new law says that you can remain in your school of origin, meaning that school year, if you started the school year in school A when you were in group home number 1, even though you moved to group home number 2 and 3 and 4, you have the right to remain in school A for that academic school year. You have the right to remain at that school even beyond that. And what this law is trying to do is trying to develop that connectiveness for foster youth that they lack as they go from school to school to school. So this law says, no, you have the right to remain in your school of origin. Can you imagine the difference that makes if you're able to remain in the same elementary school or the same middle school or the same high school as you receive your education and not have to move from school to school? I want to share with you a story of one. This is on fostercareandeducation.org. And here are stories of foster youth as they share their experience in education and why this law, AB 379, is so powerful and so helpful for foster youth. It will help them alleviate some of these barriers that so many foster youth face. So I want to take a moment and just tell you the story of Octavia Lax, according to fosterandeducation.org. It states that Octavia entered foster care in the 9th grade and moved in and out of 11 homes between 2009 and 2012. She switched schools 5 times during her high school years. She states, when I transferred between school districts, the credits I had didn't always transfer, and credits I had at one school didn't always count at the other school. She also states that math was the biggest issue. One school put me in a lower level math class. Then the other school, I was placed in Algebra 2 when I never had received or taken Algebra 1. In her 9th grade year, she fought for 2 months to stay in the same school following a move, citing the new federal Fostering Connections law. But beyond her educational struggles, the frequent moves left her socially isolated and depressed. I didn't want to sit alone at lunch, so I would go to the library or lie down in the nurse's office, she states. It's hard having to adjust to a new school and be uncomfortable in school and at home too. You can see that it was very difficult for Octavia Lack as she went through 9th through 12th grade. So you can imagine the impact of the law AB 379 on a foster youth. Instead of Octavia having to, and this is also, and you can hear in the article, that there's a federal connection law. And she stated that at one of the high schools, like, hey, the federal government says that we're foster youth and we get to stay in our schools so that we have that connection. And that's the same spirit of this law, AB 379, so that our foster youth do not have to go from school to school to school, that they can remain connected to one school. You also heard Octavia talk about losing credits and not being able to keep up with all the credits as she went from school to school. That's another unique challenge to a foster kid, that as they go from school to school, they may lose credits, or one school may count this credit, but another school may not. So having that connection, being able to stay in one school and having that happen for you is very important. So now we want to talk about Assembly Bill 1012, or AB 1012. And what this bill does, it says that that you must have a course of study for grades 9 to 12. So what does that mean? It means that in a school year that a child must have a course that has educational content. And that course must be made available to the student. And the education rights holder, the parent, or the guardian can sign off on that. So instead of placing the child in a placeholder, we don't know that sometimes that happens. We don't know what class to put you in, so we're going to put you in this class. And that class has no educational content. It won't count towards graduation. Well, AB 1012 says you can't do that anymore. You cannot sit in a class that does not have any educational content associated with it. It also talks about students repeating classes. And so I want to share with you a little of my personal experience working with one of my foster children in our foster education program. There, this young lady had taken Algebra 1 for 2.5 years. When I reviewed this student's transcript, she had taken Algebra 1A the first year, got an A, Algebra 1B, which is the second semester of algebra, and got a B. She took it, she moved schools, and took algebra again. And in the second year, she got a C and she got a B. And then in the first half of her the third high school year, they placed her back in Algebra 1. And you can see that that's a unique challenge for foster youth. As they move from school to school, she was repeating algebra over and over. And even when she would state, I took algebra last year, I passed it. Well, we don't have your transcript, and so we're going to put you in another algebra class. And so you can see some of the unique challenges that a foster youth may have in regards to their education system and are receiving an education. And so here, this law will help with that. We want to talk about that and how it helps them. I want to also talk about SB 445. And here, this is the law that states the school of origin for homeless students and charter schools. It states that the existing law provides for foster youth and homeless youth with certain educational rights applied to charter schools and regular schools to remain in their school of origin. Remain in their school of origin for the remainder of the school year, or if in a high school, to remain in their high school of origin through graduation. And that's huge. That's huge that this SB 445 is a law that allows foster youth and homeless children to remain in their school of origin for the remainder of the school year, and if they're in high school, for the remainder of until they graduate from high school. So that's an awesome law. So if you're listening to me and you're a foster youth and you're moving from group home to group home, but you're in high school, you, according to SB 444, you have the right to remain in your high school. So simply state that to your social worker, state it to your new group home administrator, state it to your teacher. Let the school know that you have a right to be in that school so that you can remain in your high school. So we wanted to talk about SB 445 as well. I want to go on and talk about SB 172. This is a game changer for not only foster youth, but for all seniors or anyone in the state of California. If you were enrolled in high school from 2004 to 2014, and you did not receive a high school diploma because you did not pass the CAHSEE. What's the CAHSEE? The California High School Exit Exam. If you did not pass the CAHSEE, and because of that, you did not receive your high school diploma, this new law, SB 172, states that the CAHSEE is suspended. It is no longer required for a high school diploma, meaning all of those students from 2004 until today, if you did not receive your high school diploma because you did not pass the California High School Exit Exam, you simply can go to your high school and state that you like to receive your high school diploma. Give them this law, SB 172. It just repealed the requirement for the CAHSEE. And then when you go to them, make sure that you ask for a copy of your transcript and see if you can receive an actual diploma. Because some of our local school districts are issuing diplomas upon request, and some of them are waiting to the end of the school year to issue diplomas in the same right that they would issue a diploma for every other high school senior. But what's most important is your transcript. Now you could take that transcript to any employer or to any education system that says we need proof that you graduated from high school. So even if the high school district is not prepared to give you a diploma when you request your graduation diploma, make sure that you get a copy of your transcript, because that high school transcript can be used as proof that you graduated from high school. And so again, if you went to public high school here in the state of California from 2004 until today, and you did not receive your high school diploma because you did not pass the CASE, then this new law repealed that. And now you have the ability to go back to your high school and to ask for your high school diploma. Isn't that awesome? That is amazing. If you are listening to this, you should be overwhelmed and overjoyed if that will indeed help you in your career. So I want to revisit AB 379 again. It talks about partial credits for lots of foster youth that move from school to school. If you, for example, if you are in middle school, you may be in a middle school environment and you may have been there for a month or 2 months, and then you got moved to another group home and you went and you had to go to another middle school. So what partial credit does is that it allows you to get partial credit for the time that you were present in that school, as long as you were passing. That's huge when we talk about foster youth that are in high school, because as you know, high schools count credits for graduation and not just attendance. So for a high school, a foster youth that is in high school, and you attended that high school for some time, you are able to receive partial credit for the time that you attended those courses at that particular high school. And it does take some time, but make sure that you continue to ask to receive your partial credits for any school that you attended for any period of time. So those are some of the unique challenges that foster youth face. Those challenges are frequent school changes and gaps in their attendance. And what we were able to do during this segment of our show is to review AB 379, AB 1012, SB 445, and SB 172. When we return from this commercial break, we're going to continue to review and discuss some of the unique challenges that foster youth face as they try to obtain a high school diploma. Don't go anywhere. Education Works consulting firm is celebrating its 10-year anniversary. And in celebration, the Healing Touch Massage Therapy Center is offering each listener a 15% discount by simply mentioning Foster to Foster Radio Show. Healing Touch specializes in sports massage, deep tissue massage, prenatal massage, reflexology, trigger point therapy, acupuncture, and myofascial release. The Healing Touch is located at 1426 Ramona Avenue, Suite E8 in Chino, California. Give them a call at 909-242-1371. And don't forget to mention Foster to Foster Radio Show for your discount. Education Works consulting firm provides foster youth education services. We work to make sure that every foster youth has a chance by providing a way through education. Please visit us at edworks4u.org or call our offices at 213-634-0044. Education works for all of us. The Hair Garden, where we grow hair from the roots, is a full-service hair salon and supplies located at 40119 Marietta Hot Springs Road, number 103C, Marietta, California.
We are open on Mondays through Saturdays from 9 to 6 p.m. Come in and purchase your hair supplies or receive a full hair service or let us restore your hair. We have weekly specials. Call the Hair Garden at 951-698-8444 or visit our website at www.hairgardenmarietta.com. That's www.hairgardenmarietta.com. We look forward to seeing you. Happy holidays. Here's Foster to Foster with your host, Dr. Anissa McNeil.
Welcome back. In this segment, we're talking about the unique educational needs of foster youth. And one of the unique challenges that I really want to talk about during this hour is the lack of consistent adult support for education. And here in the state of California, we now have a new education funding model called the Local Control Funding Formula, the LCFF. And all of our public high schools or public schools receive state and federal funding through the LCFF model. That model is groundbreaking for foster youth because for the very first time, each school district in our state is required to have specific goals to meet the needs of foster children. Yes. Isn't that groundbreaking? Isn't that wonderful? That for the first time in the state of California, we have such an opportunity to have a funding model for every school district to meet the unique needs of foster youth in their school district. So what you'll see now is many school districts have foster youth liaisons, and LAUSD, they have the Foster Youth Achievement Program. Here in Riverside and San Bernardino County, there are foster youth liaisons assigned to many schools and to many county schools. In San Bernardino City School District, we interviewed the foster youth principal, Miss Angela Urides, and we talked to her about the foster youth program there. So what an exciting time. So how can, if you're a member of the community, you say, well, Dr. McNeil, I want to see what my school district is doing about this. If you go to your school district's website, they should have what we call an LCAP, a Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP. The LCAP should tell you specifically what your school district is doing for foster youth. And many school districts wrote in their LCAP, their Local Control Accountability Plan, that they would have counselors specifically for foster youth. They would have liaisons specifically for foster youth. And that is to help with the lack of consistent support for education. And what does that support mean? That means that foster youth should have someone that's working with the group home, with the school to help support their education. They should have someone there to help guide them through this education process. That's really important when we think about the amount of trauma that a foster youth may experience or a foster child may experience as they are enrolled there in the local school. And so this program, this funding is huge for foster youth. For the very first time, school districts are required to state a goal for foster youth. And so you say, wait, Dr. McNeil, they didn't have to do that before, not specifically for foster youth. No, they were not a category that had their own identified goal. We had EL, homeless, low income, all of those were categories that had their own specific goals. So for the very first time, foster youth, foster children have their own specific goals, and each school district is required to be accountable for putting together a plan to help educate foster youth. This is a great time, a tremendous time here in the state of California where that could happen. So what is the impact of that? Well, there's 64,000 foster youth in the state of California. And we talked about earlier on the show that of the 64,000, only 32,000 will graduate from high school. So we needed something. We needed something in place to help foster youth graduate from high school in the same statistical manner as their counterparts do. One of the unique challenges that was reported from public counsel was that they lag behind educational outcomes. So here's our chance, here's our opportunity in the state of California to put funding around it and to put the right people there to support them and to help all of our foster children so that they too can receive a free and appropriate public education. And they too can overcome some of the unique barriers that are only they are struggling with, not at a fault of their own. We must remember that foster children experience abuse and neglect, and that is the reason why they are foster children. They need a moment to be children, to have a moment to deal with the trauma. They need the ability to stay in their school of origin, to finish out the school year where they started. If they're in high school, the new law now states that they can stay in that high school until they graduate from high school. So as you can see, this is tremendous. This is huge for our state. It's huge for our community. So how many people are we talking about in our local communities here in Southern California? In San Bernardino, there are 4,800 foster youth. In Riverside, there are 4,700 foster youth. In Orange County, there are 2,300 foster youth. And in LA County, there are 20,600 foster youth. So when we put all of those numbers together here in our local community in Southern California, there are 30,000 foster children right here in our backyard. Yes, we have 30,000 of the 64,000 in our entire state. So you can see what this means to our community. So if you're a teacher, if you're a school administrator, if you're a foster youth, if you're a social worker, get to know these laws, get to know this information, get to know what are the unique barriers that foster children face in your school district. And so I want to repeat them for our listening audience. If you're listening, some of those unique challenges are frequent changes in schools, gaps in their attendance, a lack of a consistent adult support for education, impact of trauma, and also their education outcomes. They do not have the outcomes in education that other students have, even when compared to our low income and our English language students. Our foster youth are falling behind. So if you can hear my voice and you can hear those unique challenges that face foster children, would you join with us? Would you band with us? And would you help them to be able to overcome those challenges? You're listening to Foster to Foster Radio Show. Thank you for a great show this evening. My name is Dr. Anissa McNeil. I do the work and I tell the stories of foster youth.
The Hair Garden, where we grow hair from the roots, is a full-service hair salon and supplies located at 40119 Marietta Hot Springs Road, number 103C, Marietta, California. We are open on Mondays through Saturdays from 9 to 6 p.m. Come in and purchase your hair supplies or receive a full hair service, or let us restore your hair. We have weekly specials. Call The Hair Garden at 951-698-8444 or visit our website at www.hairgardenmarietta.com. That's Education Works consulting firm is celebrating its 10-year anniversary. And in celebration, the Healing Touch Massage Therapy Center is offering each listener a 15% discount by simply mentioning Foster to Foster Radio Show. Healing Touch specializes in sports massage, deep tissue massage, prenatal massage, reflexology, trigger point therapy, acupuncture, and myofascial release. The Healing Touch is located at 1426 Ramona Avenue, Suite E8 in Chino, California.
This is 1050 AM KCAA Loma Linda and 106.5 FM Yucaipan.
You are the resistance. From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
Careful what you wish. All you Democrats calling for murdering conservatives and having a tyrannical takeover. The Republicans trying to give Obama dictatorial power, martial law power, so they have it when they get in office. Careful what you wish. You just might get it. Wayne Madsen's our guest. So I didn't know the law degree. You also got a medical examiner and coroner's degree, which is an MD medical license. But now, I mean, normally folks would pass the buck and say, we don't know why he died, might be natural. There'll be a coroner's deal. Medical examiner will decide. No, they were like, natural causes immediately. Everything's fine. Go to sleep. Everything's wonderful. Here is the clip. Texas judge Scalia died of natural causes. Top elected official, well, that's a medical degree. In fact, if I ever need any surgery, I'll just go to the mayor and ask for it. Top elected official in county.